This is Beyond a Reasonable Doubt with your hosts, Mark Garrigus and Gary Smith.
You know, Gary knows this, and I'll just tell those. I just finished a closing argument in a trial and took my tie off, obviously, and jumped right on and said, Gary, what about now? Let's do it.
Absolutely. And I will, I'll do you a service and not report any of the texts I was getting while you were in trial. Mark, it's great to see you, my friend.
It's good to be here. Wow. You know, the big news, I guess, if you're like us or people who listen to us, is the announcement that Justice Breyer is, and there are two Justice Breyers. One is in the district court in the Northern District of California. The other is on the U.S. Supreme Court. And I believe a Bill Clinton nominee, and he announced his retirement. And the president has previously and affirmed, I believe again, that he is going to appoint the first Black female to the court, which is huge news. And there are three contenders. My personal favorite would be, and I'm told she's not the favorite. The favorite is the district, the Washington, D.C. Circuit Court judge.
Correct.
She, by all accounts, everybody seems to think or is prognosticating that she has the inside track. The other one there's two other names that get bandied about in the last, 36 hours. And Justice Kroger on the California Supreme Court, who is a very impressive resume, pedigree. I believe both Harvard, Yale, started off in our backyard at Pasadena's Polytechnic School, arch rival of Flint Ridge, where I went. And as an alum, their other famous alum is Dr. Drew, who graduated from Poly. And she is, I think for a lot of reasons, he can't go wrong with her. One of the things that you like to see amongst in a Supreme Court justice is the ability to forge consensus. And she's written a number of opinions on the court since she's been on the court that reflect that ability, 7-0. And she's extremely bright. Rumor has it was offered a role in the Solicitor General's office, which is the office that basically argues for the government, and turned it down. My guess is that was very hard to do, but nobody, when you're a justice that I know of, will turn down the U.S. Supreme Court. So I wouldn't find that. Then there's a judge who I do not know a whole lot about her record, but the third judge is from South Carolina. Gary, do you have her name?
Judge J. Michelle Childs. She's in the South Carolina U.S. District Court.
Yeah, so that would be skipping the circuit court and going to the U.S. Supreme Court. The thinking behind this, the political inside baseball, is that Representative Clyburn, who's from South Carolina, is a booster of hers. And people may remember that his endorsement of Biden before the South Carolina primary was, a lot of people credit, was instrumental in Biden kind of turning around his campaign and going on to win. That without that crucial endorsement, that Biden never would have kind of separated or bounced back. And so that he does value Clyburn. I mean, Clyburn is an impressive man to begin with, but that certainly doesn't hurt your credentials with the president. Sure. When you're the guy who came out and kind of with early money on you, or actually not so early money, but came out and kind of at least is credited with reinvigorating that campaign. So it'll be interesting to see. What are their respective ages? I believe Judge Kroger is 45, I want to say.
I believe that's correct. I believe they're all in their early 40s. I think 45 might be the oldest. I'm scanning.
I think that the judge out of the circuit court in D.C. is 50 or 51. And
yes, and the South Carolina judge is 55. My mistake there.
Yeah.
All right. Let me back you up just a little bit, because you did a great job there of going over the front runners and the potential replacements. But in the time period since the last Beyond a Reasonable Doubt and this one, we had an interesting development where it was leaked that Justice Breyer was going to retire, and that was not a statement made by him. And there were reports that he was maybe unhappy with the way that the announcement had been made. Then Jen Psaki came out and gave her daily press briefing. And as you highlighted, she confirmed that President Biden plans to stick with his aforementioned statement that he will be appointing a black female, the first black female, to the court, which is excellent. But then she refused to take any other questions, basically, until he made the announcement. And then the next day, promptly this morning, he did make the announcement himself. But as someone who's sort of has played some of this inside baseball, what were your thoughts on that whole process?
There's always, I shouldn't say always, I don't have any, not privy to it, although I hear a lot of scuttlebutt around it. I know when Justice Kennedy stepped aside, there was some back and forth with the White House, purportedly. I know that, or I shouldn't say I know, I've read that with other justices, when they leave, that there are entreaties made to the White House to see if they're going to leave early and who they may nominate and who may take their place. And that's to some degree, if true, I can see that. I mean, it's the pinnacle of the legal profession. If you're one of the things that I usually complain about to some degree is it's always nice, and I think this is Representative Clybourne's point. It's always nice to have somebody with a varied experience from what's usually at the Supreme Court, meaning, the last real trial lawyer who was on the court would have been Thurgood Marshall, who was one of the most accomplished lawyers that ever drew a breath. You have, I thought somebody was saying today, we're taking a shot at Justice Amy Coney Barrett, that had never argued a case or never had tried a case, basically, before she was appointed. I don't have that same kind of presupposition about academics. I know a lot of judges, or have appeared in front of a lot of judges who have a purely academic background and have made fine judges. And by the way, there are a lot, I know that we used to have this when George Deukmejian was the governor of California. He kind of did a nothing but prosecutors. I mean, it was basically appointing prosecutors. And I used to laugh and say, thank you very much, because if you practice criminal defense, one of the worst judges sometimes you could get is an ex-defense lawyer, because they get very jaded. I mean, it really is true. Ex-prosecutors tend to have an ability to hold the prosecutor's feet to the fire. So there's be careful what you wish for sometimes. And I know now there's kind of a movement to get people with civil rights and public defender backgrounds, and I applaud that, because that's, that's as I always say, that's God's work. But be careful what you wish for, because there is a certain cynicism that sometimes crawls into your brain after doing that work for a period of time. So there is something to be said, though, I think, for somebody, I think for those who have talk about Sonia Sotomayor, she at least was a prosecutor, was in the district court as a judge. And that's a perspective that I think is helpful. And to have been a district court judge, actually, I think one of the things that augurs well for Justice Kroger of the California Supreme Court is that she's got the state court, has at least practiced in the state court, meaning she's been at the California Supreme Court. She's dealt with criminal cases, death penalty cases, and things of that nature. The state court has it's like drinking from a fire hose in certain respects when it comes to at least the criminal law. And the federal court, I think, is a little bit more. It's more deliberative. I always think of, although my buddies who are on the district court complain about the lack of time and effort and their crushing workloads, and I don't disagree. Some of these district courts are massively overburdened.
All right, one last quick question on this topic, and then we're going to move to a more local issue. Just because it's being bandied about, is there any reason to take seriously this notion that I think arose based on a Fox News reporter asking Jen Psaki a question that Kamala Harris will be appointed to the Supreme Court?
I don't think that there's any way that would happen. Save the tape. It's interesting, though, given her kind of background, trial lawyer, former prosecutor, she normally would be the number one kind of a thought, and it would not be the first time that a high-ranking official, I believe there was also a president who also became a Supreme Court justice. And so I just don't think you would see in this case, I don't think somebody would want to leave the vice presidency to become a Supreme Court justice. But, maybe we'll be surprised. Fox News was the first who suggested that. Huh?
I think so. I'm not sure if it was Peter Doocy. That's a very interesting report. It was one of the first questions. It was one of the first questions in Psaki's press conference the day that the retirement was.
Do we have that to play that?
No, we don't have it handy, but we could have it ready by the big show this weekend, and we can talk about it with Adam. Last topic. I want to move to more local story that I think will have national implications. The LA County has gone out of their way to make sure that there are stories in every news outlet that everyone who enters SoFi Stadium on February 13th for the Super Bowl will be given a KN95 mask. They will be reminded, and there has been a big spend on signage and media to remind people to be wearing their masks. And then today I read that if you come into a confrontation with somebody who tells you to put your mask on and you don't, you will be subject to a $250 fine. Now, I've been to SoFi this season. No one's wearing masks. I've watched football games on TV. No one's wearing masks. So how stupid are these people going to look when this shows up on TV and 150 million people are watching the game and no one's wearing these KN95 masks?
Well, I will tell you this. It's kind of ironic that they're saying that there's going to be a fine. I've been going back and forth in a case that I will not mention the specific case, but where my opposing counsel, who represents a municipality relevant to this discussion, has been basically telling me to dump my case because we don't have to worry. They're never going to enforce any kind of outdoor mask mandate again.
Okay. Sure.
Well, that, as they say on Twitter, that didn't age well.
Yeah, exactly. Freezing cold takes.
Ugh. Yeah. So you may see a filing by the firm very shortly that calls out this specific issue And if so, you heard it first here. And Gary is responsible for putting that idea in my head.
Well, there you go. You got to come to Beyond because you get Mark fired up and you never know what'll happen.
Exactly right. Between you and Adam, you guys give me some of my best ideas.
Oh, well, wait till you speak to Adam. He went off on Drew today about the Supreme Court nomination. He has got strong thoughts, and we will be sure to cover them tomorrow.
We're definitely going to talk about that. Did Drew know that one of the contenders is a fellow alum at Poly?
I don't believe he did. If he did, he kept it to himself because that didn't come up. But we'll make him aware of it.
Yeah. I mean, everything about her is extremely impressive. I have watched her career. I mean, she, mind you, I believe, if I've got the dates right, I mean, at 35, I want to say she was in one of the highest ranking positions in Washington, D.C. that a lawyer could be in. I mean, just impressive all the way around.
Well, it takes a lot to impress you. So if you're impressed by her, then so am I, and I will be learning more.
She writes well, and I've watched her in the Cal Supremes. I haven't argued in front of her, but I've watched her in arguments on cases that I've had, and she's just all the way around the real deal.
Well, I look forward to learning more about her. Mark, thank you so much for your time. Apologies for the technical difficulties, or hopefully you have no idea what I'm talking about. We'll see. I
have no idea what you're talking about, but Gary, it's always good to see you, and see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow, Mark. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Beyond a Reasonable Doubt. Stay tuned for more bonus episodes coming soon.